you guys hear me? No? Yes?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think his screen froze.
Yeah, I think so.
Can you hear me, guys? All right, awesome, awesome. Sorry about that. You know how it goes. We're here at the office with the great internet until Wednesday. We'll shut this one down. Computer. I'm assuming we're good, right? No? Everyone good? Coming back in?
It's like so keeps going in and out.
Yeah, it's choppy.
Yeah.
Well, this is the last week of dealing with this stuff, and then we're gonna have good internet moving forward. So that's exciting news. Let me see if they can stop that music right behind us. All right. So, guys, last week, was your first week of training. You're now in your second week, and your first week, you heard Tommy go over the opportunity on Monday. On Tuesday, you got to learn from Casey going over building rapport and a little bit of the phones. This Okay, so last week you learned a little bit about the first half of the presentation. This week, guys, we're going to go over the second half of the presentation, which is the reason why we're here. It's insurance, right? So just a few things, before we get into it, what I would always like to make sure you guys have done is your computer, you want to have it all set up, right? So being prepared is like one of the most important parts. So make sure your EAP's up to the needs analysis. Okay. Does everyone have EAP? EAP?
Yeah.
You got EAP?
No, I don't have it. No.
Okay. Make sure you have EAP on your. All right. Well, you guys got to get EAP on your computer like yesterday, because this week you're going to be using the EAP a lot during training. So make sure your EAP's up to the needs analysis. If I was writing notes down, I'd say when it's coming and ready for my sit, EAP up to the needs analysis, real presentation up on the screen, quote sheet, making sure that everything's up and good, ready to go. Okay. Their card, the letter from the union. Okay. All right. So, now that we're prepared, we can talk about what we go into. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable sharing from this other computer. And I'm going to kind of show you guys what I have pulled up. So the first thing we got to have pulled up is the emails. I'm sorry, the presentation. Where is it? Go down on us again, right? Okay. Thought I had it all ready to rock. We can play the silent game during training too. Whoever talks first loses. It's like, no, it's fine. All right, here we are. So I'm gonna share my screen. I can't do it. Make me a pen. All right, cool. And boom. Okay, so share screen, presentation. You guys should be able to see my screen. I'll turn it this way too so you can see it. All right. I'm gonna kind of get to where you should have. Should have ran training from home today, like Demetrius. He's smacking on them pretzels. Are those the honey roasted ones or what?
Yeah, these are honey mustard and onion. I forgot all about these.
They're so good.
Yeah, man.
All right, guys, 1 second. You know how it goes. The good news is it's only gonna take me about 40 minutes to get through what I need to, and then we're gonna do role playing. So my job today is gonna be going over whole life and term, and then it's gonna be going over the needs analysis. Okay, so if that's what you guys are taking notes on, that's what we'll go over. You can title it like term versus whole / needs analysis. We'll get there. Even a turtle can complete a race. They just can't quit. Slow and steady, right? All right. Yeah, Wednesday is going to be probably the happiest day in the agency. Everyone's going to have better Wi-Fi. All right, one more slide. And here we are. All right, so if you're running the virtual presentation, guys, whenever you make it to this screen here, it's the blank screen. That's where you should know, okay, now it's time to talk about life insurance. So how do we bring up life insurance? Well, it's 2021, and most of the people we sit down with have life insurance. However, what we found out was not everyone knows what they have or how it even works. So before we go over your last no cost benefit, I just need to make sure that we're on the same page. And then you can tell them there's over 48 different types of life insurance. I got Demetrius here before we get started. He's going to rattle off all 48 different types, and then we'll go ahead and get through this, okay? And then I'll just be like, no, I'm just kidding. You know, basically they fall under the two main umbrellas, and that's term life, which is for the if in life. And then the other type is going to be called whole life, and that's for the when in life. Now, I'll ask the client, I'll say, are you familiar with these two terms? And if they say yes, I just say, okay, great, just to refresh your memory. If they say no, I'm like, all right, great. Well, just so we're on the same page, I want to make sure you know what we're going to go over. Now, term is for the if in life. If you pass away while you have it, you're covered. Anything you'll ever get offered through your job will always fall under this category. Now, it typically works in periods of 10 years, periods of 20 years, periods of 30 years at a time. So let's just say, you know, for this example, we're using a 10-year, $100,000 policy. Well, at the age of 35 for $100,000, it might cost you about $1 a day, 30 bucks a month. But as those 10 years go down the road and you hit the age of 45, listen to my verbiage. What do you think is going to happen to the cost if you wanted to keep it? Do you think it would go up? Do you think it would go down? Do you think it would stay the same? You're right. It goes up, right? I get answers from the people. I make them communicate with me, right? So I want to get a verbal yes, verbal go up, verbal go down, whatever it may be. I want them to talk to me and I want them to interact. I don't want to just be talking at them the whole time, right? So 45, you want to keep it. Guess what happens? Boom, it goes up. You're right. Now, if they say, oh, it goes down, I'm not going to be like, no, you're wrong. I'm just going to be like, actually, with this type, it goes up. You know what I mean? I'm not going to bash them for not knowing, okay? So now we go up to 60 bucks. 10 more years go down the road, guys. You hit the age of 55. You obviously still need that same insurance. What do you think is going to happen to the cost then? It's going to go up again, right? And then all of a sudden, you're going to make it to that age of retirement. Now, keep in mind, we all hope to get there. Pension, 401k, Social Security. You can finally start drawing after all the years of putting into it. And then what they do is they either raise it right through the roof where it becomes hard to afford it, or they just cut you off altogether and say you're no longer allowed to have it. So, guys, we consider term like renting because families will pay into it over the course of their whole entire lives. They'll make it to that certain point, and then they give the keys back to the landlord. There's nothing left. Now, I'm not going to bash it. It's great for certain things. Never bash term. Term's good for income protection. Term's good for mortgage protection. Term's even good for debt, student education, right? But it's not meant to be in place forever. Okay. Now, with whole life, that's more for the when you die. It's inevitable. We're all going to die. None of us know when. Don't be afraid to say when you die. Like, don't be afraid to say that to your client. Someone got to talk to them about it. Okay. So the same person, 35, 100,000 for them might cost them, let's say 80 bucks. But once they lock it in, price never changes. So you can be 45, 55, have a heart attack, you know, get cancer, make it all the way to the age of 100 years old. It's still locked in at the same price that you initially got it, and it pays out 100% of the time when you pass away. Now, with whole life, it also builds what's called cash value, right? Now, cash value is like interest. Interest like, you know, you would have in a bank account, right? So people are like, oh, do you know what the interest on your bank account gets nowadays? It's like 1/4% to 0.5% if you're lucky, right? Well, this, while it's protecting your family, is growing your money at 4.5%. So not only are you protecting your family, but you're growing money at like 20 times the rate your bank can do it, right? The other thing it does is it develops paid up option. So it's kind of like equity in the house, right? You can have certain amounts paid up into it. Now, basically, just to recap, I'll be like, no, term is like renting, right? Whole life is like owning. Does that make sense? If they say no, then I'll break it down a little bit farther and I'll say, okay, like just for an example, and I'll do it here on the screen, but I don't want you guys doing this for like all your clients, but just so you have an idea on how it works, you know, you could be like, term, you have a bucket here and you're putting this money into that bucket every single month throughout your life. And it goes towards something called cost of insurance. Okay. You make it to the age of 65 though, A hole goes in that bucket, and all that money pours out to the insurance company. There's nothing left. Now with whole life, guys, you have a little bit bigger bucket. And you're putting a little bit more in there as well, right? Same amounts going in towards the cost of the insurance. You can't get around that. But now there's another category in this bucket, and they actually call it cash value. And that's what's growing your money at 4.5% interest, okay? So that's just for like you guys to know. You don't got to like dive too much into that with your clients unless they still don't know after you explain term and whole, okay? Now, like I said, you never want to bash term. It's great for certain things. Whole life is more like the inevitable, we're all going to die, and we always need to have that in place as well, okay? Now you ask the client, do you understand the difference between whole life and term? And they say yes. Okay, great. Here's the follow-up question. Which one makes the most sense for your family? Ask them, which one makes the most sense for your family? If they say term, say why. If they say whole life, say why. And give them what they want. If they want term, give them term. If they want whole life, give them whole life, right? But a lot of times people, because the way our presentation is designed, we're going to say the whole life, right? They're going to say the whole life. And then I'll say why. And usually they'll say it's because once you get it, they can never take it away from you. Exactly, right? So if this thing goes, there we go. One too many. All right, so your union goes through contract negotiations, right? And every few years, it seems like they're always taking something away and giving us something different. So basically, the last time that the union got together, the members, us, we brought a list of concerns to the Labor Advisory Board. And I'll ask them sometimes, like, have you ever heard of the Labor Advisory Board before? And a lot of times they say no. I'll say, okay, great. Well, what it is it sits 50 union presidents from the steelworkers, Teamsters, nurses, steelworkers. Heck, even the guy from the NFL sits on the board there, right? And every year, what they'll do is they'll come up with solutions to problems that the union members are having in their household. Well, this time around, there was a list of 6 concerns. The first one was the lack of permanent and portable benefits. It's a major issue. We're not in control of any of our benefits, and it seems like they're always cutting them back on us, right? So the first area that they really dive into, guys, is your funeral and final expenses. Now, you got to ask questions. So, Joe, Mary, if something happened to you, did you ever think, would you want buried? Would you want cremated? What are you leaning towards? Get them to talk to you. Get them to say some stuff, right? Oh, you're not sure? If they're not sure, well, then here's what I say. Do you know what the average cost of a funeral is nowadays? And most people do. Most people are like, oh, I don't know, like 10 grand, 15 grand. Yeah, you're right on the money. Anywhere between $7,000 and $15,000, and that's today. Cremations, $3,000 to $7,000. Now, 20 years ago, I'll go backwards first. 20 years ago, you can get a funeral for $4,000 or $5,000. You can get a cremation for less than $1,000. But every 20 years, milk, bread, eggs, should I mention the G word, gas, right? What happens is it's expected to double. It's called inflation. Even the materials used to make this table will double every 20 years, right? Now, guys, just so you're aware, the expert simulator, which we're going to run, the needs analysis, this is the only area that is going to recommend whole life protection. It's the only area that's going to recommend whole life protection for the members, okay? It's not going to recommend it anywhere else. The next area of concern was their loss of income. So here's a really good spot to, if you didn't find out on the FIG, to find out if they have life insurance through their job, right? So income protection. Guys, do you get any life insurance through your employer? No? Okay. Well, if something were to happen to you, Joe, would it make things hard around here for Mary? Yeah, okay. That's actually what most members say. Well, just so you guys are aware, the company's going to look to have anywhere between 3 and 5 years of that member's income protected. Basically saying it's hard enough without the member, imagine without the member's paycheck. So we still make sure that paycheck still comes home for the next 3 to 5 years for the family. Guys, just so you're aware, they're going to recommend a term product there, okay? The next area of concern that they had was for our mortgage. Do you rent? Do you own? Oh, you guys own. Okay, now here, ask smart questions. Here's some smart ones. How long have you lived there? And you should find this out by the report. So if you didn't, just bring it up to speed. How long have you been at your house again? You said you've been there for 3 years? Okay. And then ask them an educated question. Ready? When you got your mortgage, did you do a 15-year or a 30-year? Right? Because those are like the two main types. So if they did a 30-year and they've been there for 3 years, do the math for them. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I don't even know how much I owe. All right, so you've been there for 3 years, you did a 30-year, you got 27 years left. Now, if something did, God forbid, happen to you right now, what would be the balance that would need paid off? Oh, 200,000? Okay, great. And we have mortgage and rent protection for them. So my follow-up question is okay, so that 200,000, Joe, if something were to happen to you, I knew it. He to the surface, right? I just had to expose the problem so they know what's going on here. All right. Now, if they're renting, 3 to 5 years of rent protection. How much is your rent? 1,500? All right. Well, basically, we need to set aside about 20, 25 grand a year for the next 5 years. That's 125,000, right? Something like that. Yeah, I'm bad at math, right? So basically, if they have a mortgage, do the math for them, show them where the gap is, pay off the house. If they are renting, say we can protect the rent for the next 3 to 5 years. This way, Mary, if you just lose your best friend, you're not going to move to a less desirable neighborhood. You're not going to have the kids change schools right away. They can keep going what they're doing for, give you a cushion, okay? Give you grieving period. And then the last area of was you have 2 children, and if you want to, this one always works. If you want them to go to college, great. But if you're no longer here, can we give them an opportunity? And what do you think they say? They say, of course, right? So basically, we can have set aside anywhere between $20,000 and $100,000 per child for them to get an education. Okay. Now, 4 areas are exposed, right? We got them here up on the screen. Write this down. Most important part of the closing process. This is the most important part of the closing process. If anyone ever comes up to you, Demetrius, and says, Demetrius, what's the most important part of the closing process? You're going to say what I tell you next. Because you need to notice to get released. Most important part of the closing process. Now, guys, they always make me ask, if you were only to choose one of these 4 areas to have protected, God forbid something were to happen to you, what would be the most important to you, Joe? And then you have him pick. Let's just say he chooses the income. I would say, Joe, first off, I'm going to circle it. I'm going to say, Joe, you chose the income. Why did you say oh, because you help them get by. Okay, and why is that important? He chose it. Too far forbid something were to happen to you, and you only got to have one of these 4 areas protected. What would be the most important to you? And most of the time, the wife says like the education or the mortgage, right? So let's just say she said the education. I would say, oh, why'd you choose the education? Oh, I just want the kids to have a better life than me, right? Okay, great. And why is that important to you? Oh, because the world's crazy nowadays. You know what I mean? All right, great. Now, they choose. This is the most important part of the closing process. They literally picked what was most important to them. So guess what? Guess what they're getting? What's most important to them? He's at least getting income. She's at least getting education. They were the 2 most important to him. You can't tell him you can't make a sale after that. You literally just told me that the income was the most important. So we're at least going to get your foot in the door and get your income protected. You know what I mean? All right. So after this, we lead into what's called the needs analysis, right? So bring back the screen, pull up the needs analysis. 3, 2, 1, boom. All right. So you want to try to get as much of this information up here at the top filled out, okay? You want to get all that as much as you can filled out before the sit, because this is going to save you time, and time is money, especially when you're running a book schedule. So got the guy's name in there, got his email, his home address, his phone number. Scrolling down here, the needs analysis. Now, we got to build this thing up before we go over it. So, Joe, have you ever been to a financial advisor? No? Okay. Well, if you ever were to go to a financial advisor, what they would do is they would put in place a plan for your future. And before they put that plan in place, they would look to make sure the plan was protected. Now, most financial advisors will charge their clients upwards of hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year to run this for them. But because you're a part of your group, they actually set this up for you at no cost. If you're running a will kit, because you took advantage of the will kit program, they actually unlock this exclusive union benefit to you at no cost, okay? Build it up like it's the best thing since sliced bread, because it is. It is, okay? Now, what you'll tell them is it's going to take in consideration everything that you just went over, and it's going to determine if there's any gaps. If there's any gaps, it's going to show you what it recommends. However, if there are no gaps, nothing will pop up. Okay, so Joe, I got you in here now. Mary, what's your date of birth? Oh, February 1st. Oh, you just had a birthday. Happy birthday, 92. All right. So here's a little joke for you guys. Ready? Who chased who? Right? They laugh a little bit. They have fun with it. But it's funnier when the wife's older than the husband. I definitely tease her a little bit. I'm like, oh, you cradle robbers. You know what I mean? I get them laughing. Make them laugh, make them cry, make them buy, right? But here we got to start getting serious too. So now from that point moving forward, I'm straight serious about everything that I go over, okay? Now, let's just say they have one child, and we'll just call him Joey Smith, and his birthday is April. Perfect. So I got you guys in here as a family. Now, the medical questions. This is just based on the people you put on the needs analysis. You guys know a lot of life insurance companies, they actually want to know about your parents' history, your grandparents' history. We don't do that. We only want to know about them. We're not going to dive too much into like their parents and whatnot. Now, couple questions, right? These first few are just straight up, you answer yes to these, you're out. All right, disqualified. So any internal cancers in the past 2 years? Colon, breast, pancreatic, uterine? No. Any insulin diabetes? Any cardiovascular diseases, heart attacks, strokes, anything like that? Nope. All right. Is anyone on any oxygen? No. Any terminal illnesses? Any Alzheimer's? Sometimes I'll laugh and say sometimers, Anyone got any sometimers? No? Okay. And then this is important. This next one's really important. Don't miss this one. Have you used any form of tobacco in the past 12 months? No? Okay, great. Down here, you guys on any probation or parole? No, you still behaving? All right, great. And then any DUIs in the past 5 years? No? Okay, great. Or arrest, it says. Now, the next thing, it says you and your spouse's monthly take-home pay. So just roundabout, Joe, what would you say your take-home pay per month is? Let them figure it out. If they don't know, you guys can actually click on this little calculator here. Here, watch, just for an example, like what if I put in 2,000? But then you guys can click on this calculator and look, it can come up. If he don't know what he makes monthly, because some of the guys don't, you can say, all right, what do you bring home a week? What do you bring home every 2 weeks? You know what you make a year? You know what I mean? But let's just put in there, we'll put in 3,000 for this example. And then Mary, we'll put in 1,000 for her. Next question. We should already know this, but do you currently have life insurance through work? Most of the time, if they're in the union, they got like between 10 and 20,000. Typically, like most people don't have nothing, which is even more alarming. So if they do and they don't know how much it is, I always say, listen, I'd rather, give you guys, the bare bones minimum. Your family have a few extra dollars rather than me try and think you have 20,000, you really had 10. So let's just put in 10. You know what I mean? And then Mary, she don't get nothing, for an example. Next question. Do you have any life insurance outside of work? Well, they should know this. You should know this by now too. But if you don't, let's just put in he has 0. Her mom had a $10,000 policy on her since she was a kid. And, he got $100,000 through his car insurance company because they bundled it all together. And she has nothing. Next question. Do you currently rent or own? Well, we said they owned. They've been there for 3 years, had $200,000 left, let's just say, for this example. Interest rate does not matter what you put in there, guys. It does not matter what you put in there for the interest rate. But you want to get the years and the balance right, okay? Oh, sorry about that. And then always see this button here, checking. You always want to click checking. Always click checking. Click checking. Always click checking. You guys, you know a button to click? Checking, right? All right, perfect. Now, when you hit submit, what's going to happen is it's going to think for a minute. If they're a part of a group, pull up their letter, right? For an example, I sat down with a guy the other day, and he was a part of the UAW, I'm pretty sure. So what I did was while that was loading, I said, okay, guys, while that's loading, your group actually asked me to read this letter to you. And basically what I'll do is in the letter, which is in your impact, you can pull it right up. It states their union title at the top. And then there's the mandatory read-off letter for that group. Okay? If they have a read-off letter for their group, read it. Nothing's going to be better than that. That's going to be the best letter you can read to them rather than a generic one. So you have to read it, guys. You got to sit there and read it. Dear brothers and sisters, the insurance program is being offered you today and made available on a voluntary basis through the cooperation of the UAW Local 751 and American Income Life, a 100% union label company with a long-standing history of serving union members in the Income Life currently has over 60,000 UAW members covered under AD&D policies at no cost, and since 1990 paid out over $26 million in total benefits to UAW members and their families. AIL supplemental benefits are not in competition with any group benefits to your workplace or employer, and they can complement any policies you may already have. If you choose to take advantage of any of the programs offered through AIL, your benefits program is permanent and portable throughout your lifetime. AIL supplemental benefits include automatic built-in features to help members during hard times, such as strike and layoff waiver of premium benefit. American Income Life provides insurance services to millions of policyholders throughout the United States, Canada, and New Zealand, and currently has over $50 billion of life insurance in force. If you qualify, your coverage lasts a lifetime and is your independent control. Once the program has been explained to you, we'll surely agree with the many participating members how valuable this program can be in a time of need. There are several benefits available. Please take a few minutes to listen to the AIL representative who is here visiting you. If they can help you or needs in this area, please take advantage today. We would like your feedback, so please take a minute to complete the report form. This information helps serve you more effectively. And then look who signed this bad boy here. Jason Hess, the president of the union.
I have a question.
What's up?
Where do you see where do you get those numbers?
This will be in your impact. So in your impact, like when you click on your lead at the bottom of your, like you scroll down, it'll be like a certificate and a pre-approach letter. This is the pre-approach letter.
Okay, so it's just completely separate other than the actually.
It's in your impact on your impact mobile, whatever you run however you get your leads out. And if you use it on your phone, computer, right? So just real quick, I'll show you here. So she said, where do you get this letter here? Well, here's just for an example, this is an SEIU member, right? Well, scrolling down here, see right here, certificate. And then right over here is the letter. Okay? So great question. All right, so I read the letter, right? Now what I do is I bring them back, and then I bring them back up to the needs analysis. And while that's all loading, I just read the letter, so what do I got to do now? I got to say myself basically, right? So basically, Joe and Mary, here's the way that it works. If I'm going through these benefits and you're nodding your head thinking these are really great benefits, I can see why I had it set up and all the members were excited about it, then they're going to ask you to try and qualify today while I'm out here. But on the flip side, if I go through your benefits, you're nodding your head like, yeah, they're great benefits, they just don't feel a need for me or my family, then we actually would ask you not to try to qualify. Either way, yes or no, that decision does have to be made today, just in fairness to all the other members waiting to enroll. But the great part about the benefits is they're pretty much a no-brainer. So you're going to know at the end whether or not it does feel a need for you or your family. The only thing they want me to do is ask you, is if I go through this, if you have any questions at all, will you stop me and ask me? Okay, great. Because what they didn't want me to do was get all the way through this, and then at the end you say something silly like I wanted to think about it, right? So like I was saying, Joe, either way, your group still does value your opinion on officer report form. Basically, it's like my report card goes back to the union to let them know I did a good job for you. Make sense? All right, great. And I get verbal yeses, right? Yes, yes. Now, see what's up on the screen. You see this down here on the bottom? See that? That's for you, the agent, to know where the needs analysis is going with the presentation, okay? So I know what's FE? What do you think FE is? Final expenses. What do you think IP is? Income protection. MP, mortgage protection. CR, child term rider. I know that it's going to go over all of those videos for the member. Excuse me. And then there's the generic letter as well. If their group doesn't have a letter, you can read them off this one, okay? But we can skip that because we read off the letters from their group. All right, here we go. Here's the good stuff. So how do we talk about final expense protection? Anyone want to take a guess? I'll keep it super simple for you. Ready? Just read the words on the screen. That's it. That's all you got to do. So, Joe, let's examine the need for final expense protection. I'll ask him. Can you hear that, Joe? This is EAP. I do.
The emotional distress adds to the financial burden. It can be devastating to lose the family savings or even the family inheritance. The average cost of a funeral continues to rise.
Drink, you know what I mean? You're talking a lot.
The cost of funeral
Shows them what you just went over on the screen.
Expenses
The next part's even cooler because it talks about Social
Consider
Security.
that Social Security only pays a $255 death benefit, and that's if you qualify. That still leaves all of the expenses.
And you want to watch
for your
it with them.
family to
You know what I
cover.
mean? You don't want to be doing shit in the
The
background.
last thing we
You want to be like maybe having a drink, watching the video with them.
when we perish, isn't it? That's why it is important to anticipate for future events with preparation. Otherwise, who would be responsible for those unforeseen and sometimes escalating expenses that no one is ready for? We all want our last goodbye to bring comfort and leave a loving memory of us in the hearts of our loved ones. However, these good feelings can be diminished when we do not have coverage for final expenses and a burden life policy, along with the Freedom of Choice certificate. The process is simple and can be used to cover your final expenses up to the face value of your policy. Your beneficiary takes the certificate to the chosen funeral home, agrees to the service details, and writes the total amount on the back, signs it, and hands the certificate to the funeral home director. When this service is needed, the funeral home director calls the number on the certificate to speak directly to a claims representative. Payment is made directly from our company to the funeral home, and the remainder, if any, is paid to the beneficiary in a lump sum check. The decision is simple. Obtain final expense coverage, which allows you to have the Freedom of Choice certificate. That way, you will help avoid many problems for your loved ones. Today, you can enjoy the tranquility of knowing in that inevitable moment, there will be peace. If you're given beautiful memories, love is shown with action.
All right. Is anyone still here? Let's see. Is anyone still out there? Hello. There we are.
Yep.
All right. So I know the video didn't play. I know the video didn't play completely through for you guys because of our lovely internet. But basically, the video, two main reasons. One, it refreshes everyone on what actually goes into a funeral. I mean, guys, let's face it. Nowadays, they say a funeral is almost as big as a wedding. The only difference between a wedding and a funeral is a wedding, you can plan it out for a year. Heck, you could push it back for a year. Shit, you could even cancel it if you wanted to, right? But a funeral, how long you got? You got like 2, maybe 3 days at the most. So at the worst time of your family's life, we wanted to make it as simple as possible for them. And that's why they created your freedom of choice certificate. So how this works, worst time of your family's life, not if, but when. They go down to their choice of any funeral home, okay? They're not going to go into that funeral home saying, hey, Demetrius had 30,000. What can I get? Because guess what they're going to charge your family, Demetrius? All 30,000, right? So what we do is we just put a policy number on the back right here, and it allows the family to negotiate the cost right here, okay? Once they come up with the amount, they fill it in, sign it down here where it says beneficiary, like a blank check. At that point, they'll hand this certificate over to the funeral home director, and they're done. They don't have to do anything from that point on. Now, keep this in mind. Worst time of your family's life, they just lose you. That funeral home is going to need paid when? Right away, right? I ask questions. So now, Mary, you just lose your best friend that you've been with for X amount of years at that point. You don't have to go to the bank and stroke a check for 15, 20 grand. You just go down there, hand the certificate over, it's done, right? Funeral home calls this number on the front. 2 checks get sent out immediately. One for whatever was negotiated on the back right here, going directly to the funeral home. Anything left over will go back to your family within a week in a lump sum, tax-free check to wrap up additional cost, okay? So here we go. You ready? Now, Joe, do you have any questions on how your freedom of choice certificate works? No? Okay. Mary, do you have any questions on how your freedom of choice certificate works? No? Guess whose freedom of choice certificate it is from that point moving forward? It's theirs. I just asked them if they had any questions on how their freedom of choice certificate worked, and they told me no. So guess what? Now it's your freedom of choice certificate. The sale is pretty much done at that point. Like if you don't sell them after that, I don't know, you got to have a good freedom of choice pitch. So now what I do is I pull up my screen share and I show them what the expert simulator recommended, right? So guys, the expert simulator, hear the verbiage. It's not the thing. It's not the program. It's not the computer system. It's the expert simulator recommended for Joe, $30,000 of whole life coverage in force to guarantee that his funeral and final expenses will never be a burden to his family ever again. Right now, Joe, it's showing you actually have an existing of 0. So you still have a need of 30,000. And the expert simulator was recommending making sure that need of 30,000 was taken care of so that your funeral and final expenses will never be a burden to your family ever again. Now, Mary, the expert simulator recommended 30,000 for you as well. Right now, it's showing you have an existing of 10 because you had 10 set up through your mom when you were a little kid. You still have a need of 20. And the expert simulator was recommending making sure you had that full need of 20,000 protected so that your funeral and final expenses would never be a burden to the kids if Joe was no longer here as well, okay? So I run through that. Let me clear my little drawing. I hit continue. It's going to say income. I'm not going to sit here and play the income video, but to show them what it recommends is the expert simulator recommends 5 years of Joe's income being protected. Came out to roughly around 180,000. He actually has 110,000. He had 100 through his car insurance company, and he had 100 through his work, or 10 through his work. So he only has a need of 70,000. And the expert simulator was recommending making sure he had that 70,000 protected so that you would have a full 5 years of your income protected, Joe. So if you didn't come home, Mary, his paycheck still will for the next 5 years for the household, okay? And then Mary, the expert simulator recommended 5 years for you as well, came out to roughly around 60 grand. And, you know, to have that full 5 years protected, it actually was looking to make sure you had the full 60 grand in place, okay? Oh, I accidentally stopped sharing. I'm sorry, guys. That was my fault. Now, basically after that, it says, do you want to display ADB products in this offer? I always click yes. I always like to show them yes. And then basically it's going to touch on mortgage. You don't have to play the clip. You can if you want. But what it shows here is down here. You see where it says primary right here? Primary. Well, the expert simulator is going to take in consideration that for Joe. So this is going to be on Joe if he's the primary, right? And they have 200,000 left on their mortgage. So 200,000, we have an existing of 0, still a need of 200,000. The expert simulator was recommending making sure that full need of 200,000 was protected. So if God forbid something did happen to you, Joe, before the house was paid off, well, it would pay off the house if you passed away because of an accident, okay? And then I'll even tell them, like, if they're like, oh, why is it an accident? Well, because statistically speaking, if something were to happen to you before the time the house was paid off, it's a higher chance of it being an accident than anything else, okay? And then the next area, guys, is going to be for the kids' education, which it didn't pop up. So here's a mistake that I made with you guys that I wanted to share anyway, is before you click that continue button, look what comes up down here on the bottom right, the price. So what I would recommend you do is before you click that, you always bring them back to you, bring them back. You click it on your own screen. Now I'm going to pull it back up just so you guys can see how to get through it, right? You click it on your own screen. And then to get to the super combo, you have to click next benefit, and all the way down to continue. And then once it says continue, you can hit the submit button down here and get to the super combo. But there's some cool things on this page, guys. You can adjust the prices right here on these pages if you want. You know, you can do all that. You can change it from 5 years to 3 years. Look, and then hit recalculate for him, right? Now there's a need of 0. You can change her whole life from basically, say she wants, you know, to have the full 30,000. Well, you can just, you can just literally click on it and you can make this whatever you want. Look, 30K, and then you hit recalculate and then boom. So you can mess with all the rates right here on these screens if you want. And then another cool part on this screen here is the view recommended coverage. So this recommended premium is going to be 5% of what they bring home monthly, 5.5% basically, to protect their family. And the expert simulator was using 136.46 to protect their family, which gave them a discount of $83, right? So you can even use that if you wanted to. I just like to show you guys that. That's what we used to rock with in the houses. But then once you hit submit, it brings you to what's this, and that's your super combo. So you can get into this super combo, guys. And once you're in the super combo, you can mess around with rates. And you can build your own plans for them if you wanted to. And that's going to be right down here on these two boxes, okay? Between these two boxes, male, female, okay? And you'll learn more about that throughout class. Now, we've been going for like 40 minutes. I'm going to give you guys a little 10-minute break. And then when we come back, what I want you guys to do is I want you to have your presentations pulled all the way up to the whole life and term. Now, for you guys to do it on the board, you know, just get yourself set up so we can do a practice rep. But get your presentation pulled up to that term and whole life. And we're going to role play from term all the way through the needs analysis. Okay. And then we'll be done with training. It's not too much today. So 10-minute break. Once we get back in here, we'll finish up this and we'll be good to go. Okay. See you guys in about 10 minutes. 203. 203, we'll see you.